Freshlist.io.
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at YDFL Podcast. And if you love listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, remember you can actually watch all the awkward TMI moments on YouTube. Or you can
ask Alexa and just say, play the You Deserve Fresh Lettuce podcast. And she's really kind about it. So.
Yeah, and if she has an attitude, you can set her straight.
Yeah. Tell her
all right, we are going to be talking about hookup culture. Hookup culture.
Wham, bam.
Thank you, ma'am. So I had seen somebody do a post and they were saying, hey, listen, and by the way, this last episode, if you tuned in last week, we were talking about soul ties. So this kind of little bit kind of comes into it. And I saw this lady who said, in order to kind of sever that whole thing, you gotta literally imagine and say the names of every person that you were with, and then you have to say, and I break my connection to them, or whatever it was that she said, right? Well, in the comments, so many women, and I'm talking in their 20s, were like, wait, we gotta remember all their damn names. Like literally the joke then became in the comments, which had thousands of comments, like, who the hell knows everybody's names? And it got us kind of thinking, like, there's an actual thing called hookup culture, where women, I think, on the quest for women's empowerment and independence and all these things,
I think, okay, so being single and kind of being out in the dating world, I've come to the conclusion and realization that a lot of the time, the men don't really want to put the effort or the time to go to a restaurant, to go here, to go there. Granted, it has to feel right, but I think what happens is, and what I say it has to feel right, meaning, you know, if you go on a light date, then the next thing is possibly going on a dinner date. But what I've noticed is they're not used to that because they're used to just being like, just come to my house, just come over. I'm going to be, home at about 10, 11. And at that time, like, you're like, well, what am I going to go do at your house at 10, 11 o'clock at night?
Dating, ladies, if you are out here, and I don't care if you're 20 years old or 40-something or 50-something years old, dating is almost kind of dead.
Right.
The older guys, I think, maybe...
They kind of get it a little bit more.
Yeah, the older guys do understand the desire for us to want to date, but if they have a little bit of success in their life... there's plenty of younger girls that are willing to just text and hook up, and the guy doesn't have to do anything. And we've talked about lazy lions, right?
We definitely do that, yeah. We talk about that.
But hookup culture is a real thing. I know for my own sons, they would say, oh, it's so difficult because they go from texting to, like, hook up. There is no dating. Yeah. And for some girls, they're just, like, okay with it. They're like, oh, he was hot, and I hooked up with them. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Right. No courting, no nothing.
But at what point... do you go from this, like, hookup culture of, like, it's all fun and games until you fall for someone.
Right.
And then now you want them to do an about face and treat you like wifey material, but yet you came into the picture as
hookup material.
A hookup.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part is, and I think that's why you're probably seeing a lot more people not getting married. It's because you really think about what the pros and cons are for women and for men, really, if you think about it. Because for a woman, there's a lot that is expected of a woman, and for a man too, there's a lot that's expected of a man. And if you can just not have any type of commitment with anybody, and just like hook up with her and hook up with her and have to give no explanations to her about her or him about him, then why would you want a lifelong partner? Why would you want that? And especially, you think that you have a lot of time in life, and if you're in your 20s and you're in your 30s, and maybe you're in your 40s, and you're like, I've been good just like hooking up with people and not having any type of commitment with anybody. And that's kind of, I think, what we're kind of facing this new era. It's a nuance for
How
me.
does it work, though, I wonder, because, so I know for me personally, and not to always be putting my business out there because I try to be really careful and mindful, but I know I'm a love bug, and I know that if I'm going to be intimate with anyone, I've already come to the realization that this is someone I truly feel some kind of way about, and I can see my life with this person, okay?
Okay.
If I'm in full hookup culture mode out in the world, how do you not catch feelings? Like, I get that a lot of this is happening, like, I went out and I met a guy and it just happened, or, oh, it's a friend of a friend at a parties and, like, it happened. But, like,
how do you not catch feelings?
How do you then go back for seconds?
Yeah.
And then if you're on seconds and thirds and fourths, how do you not catch feelings in this whole hookup thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know either. I think what happens is you just have an understanding that he's free to be himself and you're free to be yourself. And I think that, you know, you have an understanding that you guys are just hooking up. But always, I think what happens there when you do get into that whole hookup culture, there's always going to be the one that you prefer to be with, or the one guy or the one girl.
Yeah.
And then someone kind of gets caught up because someone catches feelings. And then all of a sudden you have this whole thing where the guy doesn't want to commit or the girl doesn't want to commit. And she's out and about, and maybe she has her guys, right? So this guy is like her, like this guy's her money guy that's going to like provide for her, give her money, take her here, take her there. This guy's good sex. This guy's good like conversation. He's more like a psychologist, exactly. And so she has her like guys that do certain things. And even as crazy as it sounds, we're talking about this new generation, new era. Yeah, true. But even when I was growing up and when I was in my 20s, I knew of girls that had like, that's her money guy, and that's her sex guy, and that's her Saturday night guy. And she had her guys, and she had them kind of like, okay.
How the men do it.
Kind of.
It takes 5 guys to make the perfect man, and it takes 5 women to make the perfect woman.
And that's exactly how they would roll.
I will tell you that I was having a conversation in Beverly Hills. I was at a very exclusive event, and there was these, my very good friend's daughter was there. And we were talking about the dating scene, and she's my youngest son's age, so she was like 22 at the time, maybe 21. Mm-hmm. And so I was talking a little bit about this topic with her, and she said something very interesting.
Yeah.
Because she's in LA and she's on the scene, and then there's like hookup culture.
Right.
To her, if a guy asks her out and says, "Hey, why don't we go to the movies?" Let's just say, okay. If that's even a thing. But she gave me an example.
Right.
And so she'll get ready and whatever.
Yeah.
And then she said, if they go the whole night, like through the date, they went out to grab, you know, Pink's hot dogs, whatever it might be in LA, casual, whatever. All of a sudden, if the date ends and he gives her a kiss on the cheek, whatever, because he's trying to be respectful, see? Because guys actually will respect the women that they want a future with, and they'll try to hook up with the ones that they just don't see a future with. So she said that when a guy doesn't make the move sexually, when the guy does not attempt to sleep with her, she in her head dismisses him when she gets home, because she goes, he's not that into me, and she moves on. And so I was like, whoa. So here I am in like Olivia Newton-John. And I'm like, I'm fascinated by this.
Right.
And then her friend jumped in, and it was like, boom, she said the same thing that she said, and then the next one said it, and they go, oh yeah, if he doesn't try to screw that first night, then he's like not that into it, and it's super like, ugh, I gotta move on.
Right.
And so then I went home, talked to my son, and I said, and he goes, oh yeah, because if we truly, he said, what girls don't know is if we truly like her, we're not gonna even try to touch her. And if we don't really like her like that, it's just a good time, then we're going to be making moves. So that means they've been surrounded by nothing but guys that just see them as a hookup.
Right. So then the one guy that sees her more like something serious, she doesn't even know how to
She doesn't know how to read
it
that.
Down.
She doesn't know how to recognize it and process it. And then it was one girl after another girl, and that's what really opened my eyes to this whole thing of like, what is happening?
Well, I think it's easier said than like it when you have actual story to kind of back up the story of like the girl and stuff. Yeah. But I think what it boils down to is the hookup culture is what you're saying is it has to do with a lot of these possible dating apps, right? So you're in LA for the day, or you're in Orange County for the day, you know, you just change your location. All of a sudden you have the accessibility to all these men that are willing and ready to meet with you, and maybe a couple drinks in and you're not really that serious about the person. You just, hey, you know what, you swipe to the left, you talk to someone, meet up at a bar, and the next thing you know it leads to something else. That's basically it. And so I think that the accessibility to people is a lot easier than when we were growing up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to where before there was really no cell phones. You'd have to call like the house phone, a landline, and, you know, there was like that whole thing. And now it's like you like someone, you see someone in like someone's page, you click, you're like, oh, okay, this guy looks single. Now you Instagram him. Now you send him a message, and now it's like, hey, let's meet up. And I think that's what's going on more so than anything. I think that you're
it's
like direct
accelerated, right?
It's more like direct, like now you're like literally direct.
Yes.
I don't want to say it's like direct to consumer, but like it really is. It's like
instead of being on like broadcast television, we're on
right.
YouTube on our terms, and it's like people are just going right to that,
and that's the way it is. And so I think that's literally what's going on. There's no chase.
They're cutting. They're
cutting straight, cutting in line, and they're just like, all right, this is what we're doing. And I think that when a person, whether it's a woman or a man, it's usually the men though. When the man is ready to find the person, even if that particular person may not be like 100% the right person, I think that maybe
they're going to choose what's in front of them.
Psychologically, they're just going to be like, she's good.
Yep.
You know, she comes from a pretty good family. She's got a pretty good job, a pretty good head on her shoulders. You know, she's going to be the one. And I think a lot of the time when you do make these decisions without actually doing the breakdown with the whole like, well, does she respect herself? Is she easy? Is she not? I don't know. That might be a little bit old school, but I don't know. Maybe that's whoever's in front.
It could be old school, but when I tell you men are wired the way that they're wired, and they can run through 100 women, but when they find the one that's in front of them that they want to settle down with, they then kind of care about the track record, and they start to contemplate that. And it's such a contradiction of behavior. It's a contradiction of energy. And it is the oddest thing. And at the same time, though, the females do it too.
Right.
And like I said, my son will say, oh, you know, we'll go from text. It's like 0 to 60 real quick. They're just texting. And they technically would not even have to take the girls out on a date.
Right.
Even though they really like them, the texting is getting really flirty, whatever the situation is. I'm a mom, and I'm trying to get all of those details. But at the end of the day, next thing you know, if you see a little bit of disappointment, I would always know, oh, okay, they probably had sex, which you would think they'd be ecstatic, but a little part of them was disappointed that she was more about the hookup. And so I think deep down inside, guys still want girls to say no. And I know there's a whole slew of men that would disagree and go, no, let it ride. Whatever happens, happens.
Right.
I know people who have married the woman that they had a one-night stand with, and you know, I know women that had one-night stands and on the first date gave it up, and you know, a year later they were married. Like, I do know that for some people it doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't. But somewhere, somehow, even with some of them, it comes up. Body counts come up. There's all these things that come up.
It's like what I always say, it's like the water and the oil, so it always seeps up. And not only that, sometimes even though the guy knows that, you know, you have your track record, they want to know details, why, when, where, how, and then they get upset about it. But I guess, you know, when you actually give or get the breakdown, like, whatever happened before you is not your business.
It really isn't. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, if you are single and you're a young woman watching this, or if you're a mom of young daughters, be prepared to have this conversation to really make sure that they understand, because sometimes it's the blind leading the blind. They have young girls going, oh my God, he didn't make a move on you. Maybe he doesn't like you. Like, you got to think about that so that they understand the way boys kind of think. And boys are like, if I really like her, think about it, they actually get nervous. I mean, I've been on dates with 40-something-year-old guys, and they're like not nervous. And so they're not trying to like
go there,
be all hot and steamy with me. They're too nervous, and they're nervous because they actually genuinely like me. And you'll know the difference, because the ones that are super suave and they're very like, hey, like, let me see, da-da-da. Those guys stay freaking swimming around. Those guys stay playing the field. Like, they do. They're all about the hookup. So again, I'm not a man, I could be wrong, but at the end of the day, based on our experience, hookup culture is a thing.
It really is.
The whole younger generation's all about it.
I mean, as much as I don't want to bash them, but it really is, because they have accessibility like no other.
It's not even viewed as negative.
No.
But I will tell you, ladies in your 20s that are in this full swing, you're kind of ruining the guys, because at the end of the day, all these men are also in their 20s, and they're being trained to not have to date you, to not have to invest in you. But I do
think, though, that when you do bring it to someone's attention, because, you know, obviously we're talking about hookup culture, and even if they're like in their 30s or 40s, and maybe even upper 40s, where you call them out and say, I'm not just going to roll up, like, who do you think I am? And then you kind of check them, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you're right, you're a respectful woman.
But they still don't ask you out.
No. And then now maybe they'll go ahead and do more of the reservation.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to go out of their way a little bit more just because you put your foot down. And at the end of the day, it's like, if you're not going to treat me right, what's the point of even going there?
And if they play dumb, you gotta go, all right.
Yeah, I don't play that game. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But it just depends. Like, it depends on what you're doing, and if hooking up is what you want to do, just remember that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, like, it's literally going to be like the oil in the water. It's going to seep up and it's going to bite you in the rear. Like, it's going to bite you in the ass.
And if you are a hopeless romantic and you are a woman with certain kind of values and you want to be courted, you just have to understand that in this culture, you might have more lonely nights than not. And if you're willing to hold your ground and say, hey, I'm just not going to do the whole, hey, what are you doing? You want to just meet up, or you want to come down and hit the jacuzzi or whatever? Like, if you're like, no, I want to be taken out. I want to go dancing. I want to get dressed up. I want to go to dinner. If you hold your ground on that, the right ones will show up and they love doing that. But they're fewer and further between. You're gonna have some lonely nights if you're gonna just stick to that.
And you have to be okay with that.
And you have to be okay with it.
So respect your body and your soul, your spirit, your temple, and if that's what you decide to do, and if you just want to hook up, then I'm not telling you to do it, but you have to remember that that's something that's going to seep up, in my opinion. It's going to come up, and so just be careful. Just be careful.
Yep.
So. That's all we have for today.
Don't forget that no matter what you're doing, whether you're just hooking up with people or you're literally looking for love,
looking for love in all the wrong places.
Kenny Rogers. You deserve fresh lettuce.
And we say cheers to that.
Cheers.